As part of NPR's occasional series focusing on the lives of Americans living abroad, NPR's Rob Gifford visited Tim Baker, a native of Green Bay, Wisconsin, who has founded a children's home in China.
Standing in a sparsely furnished office in the town of Langfang, just outside Beijing, a tall American is giving directions on the phone.
Hey, 你好，小王。你知道那个天津高速公路?
Tim Baker has been busy making preparations all day for the arrival of a driver with a delicate cargo. 7 new orphans are being driven for 9 hours across country to the children's home he runs here in Langfang.
We came to China in 1988 to teach English. Shortly after we arrived here, we became volunteers at the local orphanage. And we fell in love with those kids, and we began doing volunteer work. Several years later, we adopted one of the little girls from the orphanage. And then we wanted to do something more to help kids like her, so we organized a foundation.
They named it the Philip Hayden Foundation, after a fellow American teacher and orphanage volunteer who tragically died in China in 1994, aged 28. The following year, Baker and his wife gave up their teaching and began to work with orphans full-time. Soon, they'll have room for 170 children in 10 separate houses. A children's village, they call it.
Most of the children that we have here were abandoned because they have some sort of special physical problem. And we have children with cleft lips and palates and spina bifida, children with burns, clubbed feet, and other problems. And, China has a one-child policy. People who have children who have birth defects and this kind of thing will often abandon them because there's really nothing else they can do. There's no other hope for them.
Some of the 8,000 children adopted by U.S. couples every year in China have come from the children's village here. The aim, Tim Baker says, is to bring in children with special needs, fix them up, as he puts it, then look for people who want to adopt them or become foster parents, either in China or abroad. The 7 newborns are brought into the nursery of one of the children's homes. The foundation rents the white-tiled building from a bankrupt factory next door and has spruced it up with a layer of pink paint. Inside are 7 old cots for the babies donated by supporters of the project. The house is not luxurious, but it's many times better than most Chinese orphanages, which are very basic indeed. A pile of donated clothes sits nearby. Several Chinese staff are standing by, ready to bathe, feed, and sometimes sing to the children. A spontaneous chorus of Amazing Grace in Chinese is not unusual here. 80% of the 90 staff are Chinese, and most of the staff, foreign and Chinese, are Christians. 37-year-old John Bentley gave up a well-paid job as a government lawyer in Maryland to move to China. He says Tim Baker is changing the way foreign NGOs, especially Christian ones, function here.
The thing that makes Tim unique is that he's one of the rare ones that chose to go above ground. A lot of times Christians go underground and like to sneak around, and Tim thought, why don't we engage him? And it's really helped us in our work in the long term.
Neither Bentley nor Baker is interested in politics. Whether they agree with the one-child policy or not doesn't matter, says Baker. It's there, and those are simply the circumstances they're working under. He says Communist Party officials these days are easier to work with than before. They're pragmatists, he adds, not ideologues. He says he's never had any problems with the authorities because of his Christian faith, perhaps because of the way he practices it.
St. Francis said, preach the gospel every day, and if need be, use words. That's sort of been my motto. I want people to see my faith and not hear about it so much. In fact, there's a Chinese proverb, too, that says, seeing something once is better than hearing about it 100 times.
And the future? That, Baker says, is in God's hands. Rob Gifford, NPR News, in Langfang, northern China.